My parents. Let my sister drop out and spent my college fund on her wedding, so I quit helping them and watched their perfect image collapse. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I grew up in a family where perfection had a name. My sister, Lily. From the moment we were kids, she was the sun, and I was the shadow that existed because of her light. My parents adored her. Every small achievement of hers, a dance recital, a school project, even her handwriting, was treated like a national victory. Meanwhile, I could bring home straight A's and hear nothing more than a distracted, "Good job, son," before they went back to gushing over Lily's latest talent. I didn't hate her for it, at least not back then. I actually admired her confidence. I told myself maybe she deserves the attention. Maybe I just had to work harder. That belief carried me through every science fair, every late-night study session, every part-time job I took to prove I could be responsible. I wanted my parents to be proud, and not out of competition, but out of love. We grew up in a middle-class home where money was tight, but my parents often spoke proudly about the college fund. One for each of us, they said. Equal opportunity, equal future. I remember Dad telling me, "No matter what happens, son, your education is secure." I believed him completely. That fund wasn't just money to me, it was a promise that my sacrifices meant something. Lily never cared much for academics, but no one scolded her for it. "She's creative," Mom would say, brushing it off. Not everyone learns the same way. Still, every time she quit something, ballet, piano, photography, the spotlight never dimmed. It was like failure couldn't stick to her. I didn't realize it back then, but the balance in our family wasn't just uneven, it was designed that way. And soon, I'd find out just how much that design would cost me. When I was 17, I thought my future was finally starting to take shape. I had top grades, a strong SAT score, and a genuine passion for engineering. My parents told everyone how proud they were, or at least that's what I heard from other people. They didn't say it much to my face, but they did mention my name whenever they needed to look like good parents in front of relatives. I didn't care. I took what I could get. The important thing was that college was finally within reach, and the fund they'd promised all those years was waiting. Meanwhile, Lily had dropped out of her second semester at community college. She claimed she needed to find herself. My parents didn't even blink. "She's figuring out what makes her happy," Mom said one night as if dropping out was an act of courage. I remember sitting there at the dinner table, my fork hovering midair, wondering how that could ever be okay. When I asked if she'd go back eventually, Dad just sighed and said, "We'll see, son. Not everyone's meant for the same path." Still, I didn't push. I wanted peace. I told myself, at least my future's safe. They told me the college fund was still there, untouched, ready for when I got accepted. I trusted them. Why wouldn't I? These were my parents. Months later, I started applying to universities. I spent nights perfecting essays, saving application fees, and dreaming of a fresh start, one where I'd finally step out of Lily's shadow. The acceptance letters began to arrive, and I could almost taste freedom. But that illusion, that fragile sense of security when it was about to be ripped away, because the promise that built my entire future was never really mine to begin with. I still remember the day I found out, and it was supposed to be one of the happiest moments of my life. I'd just gotten accepted into my dream university. Full of excitement, I ran downstairs holding the acceptance letter like it was a trophy. "Mom, Dad, I got in," I said, grinning like a fool. For a moment, I thought I saw pride flicker in their eyes, but it was gone as quickly as it came. Mom's smile was tight. Dad cleared his throat and said, "That's great, son. But, about the college fund?" My stomach dropped. I waited, expecting maybe a delay or paperwork issue. Instead, Dad continued, "We had to use that money for something important." I blinked. "Something important?" I asked. What could possibly be more important than my education? That's when Mom spoke softly, almost rehearsed. We helped Lily with her wedding. It was a big step for her, and we wanted to give her the start she deserved. I swear, time stopped. I felt the air leave my chest. "You used my college fund? For her wedding?" I asked, my voice cracking between disbelief and anger. Dad frowned like I was being unreasonable. "Son, you're young, strong, smart. You'll figure things out. She needed it more." That sentence echoed in my head for days. She needed it more. Like my future was disposable. Like everything I'd worked for could just be handed over because I wasn't the golden child. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood there numb, staring at the people who raised me, realizing they'd never really seen me as their equal, just as backup for their favorite. That night, as the laughter from Lily's pre-wedding party filled the house, I sat in my room staring at my acceptance letter, knowing it no longer meant anything. The wedding day was beautiful, at least that's what everyone said. The venue was filled with white roses, soft music, and laughter that didn't belong to me. I wore a borrowed suit and a fake smile, watching as my sister floated down the aisle in a dress that probably cost more than my entire college tuition. Every cheer, every camera flash, felt like another nail in the coffin of the life I'd worked for. Guests kept complimenting my parents. "You've raised such a wonderful family," one of Mom's friends said. "Both your kids turned out so well." I wanted to laugh, but my throat was too tight. My mother just beamed, clinging to that illusion of perfection. The proud mother of the bride, basking in applause. At the reception, Dad raised a glass and said, "We're so grateful for our son, who's always been there for his sister. We couldn't have done this without him." Everyone clapped. I froze. That was the moment it hit me. They weren't just spending my future. They were turning my silence into part of their performance. I was the prop that made their lies look noble. Lily hugged me later, her perfume heavy and sweet. "You'll get your turn, don't worry," she said with a laugh, like I was the silly younger brother waiting for a handout. I just nodded, too drained to respond. I wanted to scream that her turn had been bought with my dreams, but what was the point? Nobody in that room would have believed me. When I finally got home, I took off the suit, loosened the tie, and sat on my bed in the dark. The silence was deafening. No music, no applause, no approval. Just me, realizing for the first time that in my family's perfect picture, I was never really in focus. After the wedding, life went eerily quiet. There were no more congratulations, no more family dinners, no more fake speeches about how close we all were. Just me, a 19-year-old working double shifts at a hardware store, trying to figure out how to pay for community college classes while pretending everything was fine. My parents never brought up the college fund again. It was like the whole thing had been erased, rewritten as if it never existed. Mom would still call occasionally, her tone light, casual. "How's work, honey? You're still saving up, right?" I'd clench my jaw every time, because she said it like it was my fault I wasn't in school, like she hadn't traded my future for white roses and wedding photos. Meanwhile, Lily's life was plastered all over social media. Beach honeymoons, designer clothes, posts about starting a new chapter with the love of her life. Every caption felt like a slap. But the worst part came a few weeks later when she messaged me. "Hey, can you send me $200? We're running short after the honeymoon." I stared at the message, my chest burning. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just entitlement, like my role in her life was still to make hers easier. I typed a reply 3 times, deleted it, and finally wrote, "I don't have anything left to give." She left me on read. That silence said more than any argument ever could. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, and something inside me shifted. It wasn't just sadness anymore, it was exhaustion. I realized I was done begging for fairness from people who didn't believe I deserved it. The next morning, I packed up my things and moved into a cheap apartment near work. No goodbyes. No explanations. Just quiet, the kind that felt more like peace than loneliness. But peace, I was about to learn, doesn't last long when you're the family scapegoat who decides to stop playing his part. It had been nearly 3 years since I left home. I'd built a quiet, simple life, full-time job, online classes at night, a few close friends who didn't see me as Lily's brother. I still called my parents on holidays out of habit, though the conversations were short and shallow. They never asked about my studies or my work. It was always about Lily, how her marriage was going, how beautiful her house looked, how proud they were of her. I stopped correcting them. I just listened until the calls ended and the silence returned. Then one night I got a call from Mom, her voice shaky, desperate. "It's Lily," she said, barely holding it together. "She needs help." My stomach tightened. Apparently her husband had lost his job, and they were drowning in debt. Mom started crying, saying, Your sister's having a hard time.
We need to be there for her.
Can you send something to help? For a moment, I actually considered it. Old habits die hard. But then I remembered sitting in my room years ago, listening to laughter from her wedding, the one paid for with my dreams. I took a deep breath and asked, "What about the college fund you stole from me? Why didn't you help me when I needed it?" Mom went silent. Then she said the same line that had haunted me for years. "You're strong. You always figure things out. That's when something snapped." "Exactly," I said quietly. "I did figure it out, without you." I ended the call before she could reply. My hands were shaking, but for the first time it wasn't from anger. It was from clarity. That night, I realized something they never expected. Their golden daughter's fall from grace wasn't my burden to fix. But I didn't know that by refusing to help. I had just triggered the beginning of their perfect world's collapse. It didn't take long for the guilt campaign to begin. Within a week of that phone call, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Not from my parents, but from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. "How could you abandon your family like this? Your mother's heartbroken. Lily's been through so much, and you're just letting her suffer?" Every message dripped with disappointment, perfectly crafted to make me look like the villain. At first, I tried to explain. I told my uncle they used my college fund for her wedding. "I worked for years to get into school." He replied, "That's in the past. Family helps family." That phrase, "family helps family," I started to sound like a curse. It wasn't about love. It was about obedience. It meant do what they want no matter what it costs you. Then came the real twist. Lily started posting cryptic things online. "Some people only care when you're winning. Family can hurt you worse than strangers." And the comments were full of sympathy. "You deserve better, Lily. I can't believe your brother turned out that way." She never said my name, but everyone knew who she meant. It was like being erased and vilified at the same time. My own family's version of events spread faster than the truth ever could. They painted me as cold, selfish, and ungrateful. And the more I tried to defend myself, the guiltier I looked. One night, Dad finally called. His tone was calm, almost rehearsed. "Son, you're letting pride ruin this family. Just apologize and help your sister." I remember laughing, not out of humor, but disbelief. "You want me to apologize? For not letting you steal from me again?" He hung up. That silence afterward wasn't empty. It was loaded. For the first time, I understood they didn't want peace. They wanted control. And now that I'd stopped playing along, they were going to make sure everyone saw me as the enemy. After months of being painted as the selfish son, I started believing maybe they were right. The guilt crept in like a slow poison. I stopped checking social media, stopped answering calls. Every time I saw my parents' number flash on the screen, my stomach twisted. I told myself I didn't care, but the truth was, I still wanted them to see me. To finally say, "You did the right thing." Then came the message that broke me. Mom texted, "Your father's blood pressure is out of control. Your sister's struggling. We need help." I stared at it for a long time. The old version of me would have driven home instantly, ready to fix everything. But I knew what help meant. It meant money. It meant emotional labor. It meant sacrificing my peace again to rebuild the illusion they'd built around Lily. Still, I couldn't shake the image of my dad collapsing, my mom crying. I drove home that weekend, not to help, but to see. To understand what was real, the house looked smaller than I remembered. The fancy car Lily once bragged about was gone. Her husband had left, taking most of their savings. Inside, the air smelled stale, like shame and desperation. Mom hugged me like nothing had ever happened. "You're here," she whispered, almost relieved. Dad barely looked up from the couch, embarrassed by his own silence. And Lily, she didn't even say thank you. Just sat there, scrolling her phone, pretending I didn't exist. That was my rock-bottom moment, realizing that even when their world was collapsing, they still saw me as a tool, not a son. I'd come seeking truth, but all I found was the same hierarchy that had always existed. Lily's comfort first, my worth last. That night, driving back alone, I cried, not from sadness, but from the final death of hope. I finally understood. Some families don't break apart. They rot slowly from the inside. After that visit, something inside me changed. I stopped expecting apologies. I stopped waiting for them to see what they'd done. It was like finally giving up on a storm that had already destroyed everything. I focused all that leftover pain into building my own life, one brick at a time. I worked harder than ever. Got promoted at my job, finished my degree online, bought a small apartment with my own savings, no loans, no help. Every milestone was bittersweet. There were moments I wished my parents could have been proud of me. But then I'd remember the way they'd looked through me, and that wish turned into quiet resolve. Then, slowly, the tables began to turn. Word started spreading among relatives. The whispers about how my parents had used my college fund for Lily's wedding, how they'd pushed me away when I refused to keep bailing her out. My aunt called one day and said, "I never knew what really happened. They told us you abandoned them." That conversation hit me like a wave. For the first time, someone believed me. The cracks in their image began to spread. Lily's marriage was over, their finances were wrecked, and the people they'd once impressed were finally seeing the truth. But I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. Watching from afar, I felt something much stronger than revenge: detachment. One evening, Mom called again, her voice small and trembling. "Can we come see you?" "Just to talk," I hesitated. The old me would have said yes instantly, but now, I just said, "Not yet." It wasn't anger keeping me away, it was clarity. I wasn't the broken son anymore. I was the man they'd built by betraying, and for the first time in my life, I got to decide the distance between us. A few months passed before I heard from them again. This time, it wasn't a call. It was a message from a family friend. "Your parents are selling the house. The same house where every perfect family photo had been taken. The same house that had my future buried under Lily's wedding decorations." I drove by one afternoon out of pure curiosity. The yard was unkept, the for sale sign leaning crooked in the wind. The curtains were drawn, but through the glass I could still see the faint outline of our family portrait, me on the side, cropped slightly out of frame. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd spent years protecting their image, and now even the frame couldn't hold it together. A week later, I got a voicemail from Mom. Her voice was soft, fragile. "I know we made mistakes, but we're family, and family should forgive. Please don't let things end like this." Then another from Dad, shorter, colder. "We never meant for things to go this far." I didn't respond. I played both messages once, then deleted them. It wasn't cruelty, it was acceptance. I finally understood that some people only regret losing control, not losing you. Meanwhile, relatives who'd once idolized them began to distance themselves. The stories they'd spun for years were unraveling. People whispered things like, "They always treated Lily better," and "Did you hear what they did to their son?" Their social reputation, the thing they valued more than honesty, was gone. And Lily? She moved back in with them, jobless and bitter. The same golden daughter who'd once posted photos of her dream life now posted nothing at all. I never reached out. I didn't have to. Their silence told me everything. They'd built their entire identity on appearances, and now the masks had finally slipped, leaving only the truth they'd tried so hard to hide. It took almost a year before I finally agreed to see them. Not out of longing, but out of closure. I wanted to face them one last time, to end the cycle that had been running my life since childhood. When I pulled up to their new, smaller house, I barely recognized it. The lawn was overgrown, paint peeling off the sides. The once perfect home was gone, replaced by something tired, fragile, honest. Mom opened the door with teary eyes. "You look so different," she said, reaching for a hug I didn't return right away. Dad sat in the living room, thinner, quieter. Lily was there too, scrolling on her phone until she noticed me, then quickly looking away. The silence stretched between us like a ghost. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. "We wanted to say we're sorry," he muttered, his voice heavy with pride and shame. "We didn't realize how much we hurt you." I didn't respond immediately. I just looked around the room, the faded family photos, the fake smiles, the memories that used to hold me hostage. "You didn't hurt me by accident," I said finally. "You made choices, every single time, and I wasn't one of them." Mom started crying, whispering, "We were just trying to do what was best for everyone." "No," I said softly. "You did what was best for Lily, always." For the first time, no one argued. Even Lily's eyes watered, though she said nothing. The weight in the room shifted, not toward reconciliation, but realization. They finally understood what I'd known for years. Their golden daughter's shine had come at the cost of their son's light. When I stood to leave, Mom begged, "Please, don't cut us off completely." I looked at her and said, "I already did. I just came to make it official." And as I walked out, the air felt lighter, like I'd finally escaped the gravity of their expectations. It's been 3 years since that day, and sometimes I still think about how different my life could have been if they'd just kept their promise. But then I remind myself that I wouldn't trade the peace I have now for anything. I rent a small apartment in the city, run my own business, and spend weekends hiking or reading, not because I'm hiding, but because I finally have control over my own silence. My parents still reach out occasionally, short messages like, "We miss you," or "Lily's been asking about you." I don't ignore them, but I don't engage either. I reply with polite, distant words. It's not revenge anymore, it's boundaries. I've realized that forgiveness doesn't mean reopening the door. It means no longer standing outside it, hoping someone will let you in. Lily tried calling once. Her voice cracked when she said, "I wish we could start over." I told her the truth. "You already did, without me." She didn't argue. I think she finally understood that not every wound heals through apology. Some just stop bleeding when you stop touching them. The funny thing is, life has a way of balancing itself. Their reputation never recovered, and they live quietly now. The once envied family nobody talks about. But I don't take joy in that anymore. I've learned that peace isn't watching others fall. It's walking away before they drag you down with them. Last month, I donated to a scholarship fund for first-generation college students, kids whose families couldn't afford to believe in them. I wrote the note anonymously, but in my mind it said, "For the ones who had to build their own future from nothing." They spent my college fund chasing appearances. I used their betrayal to build a life based on truth. And maybe that's the real revenge, not proving them wrong, but proving myself right.